Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe. Welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Summers McKay.
And I'm Kristy Jansen, and we're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy. We love you if you're listening to us while you're quarantining. We know that you are in our hearts-worthy podcast. Today is Tuesday, the 15th of December, 2020. Well, Kristy, I had some lovely feedback from a good friend of ours yesterday about the podcast. My girlfriend who tested positive for COVID is at home quarantining away from her family and in her solo room. And she said that she got a chance to listen to us yesterday and it felt like she was listening to Friends. So that if all of this effort, all of this work, all of this podcasting has given a little bit of light and love to someone who is not going through the best of days right now, then it was worth it.
Absolutely. Now that makes me feel happy too, Summers. And I think that is exactly why we're doing what we're doing. I mean, not only do we get to talk to each other, but we get to talk to our friends in the world out there. And that's a wonderful thing, a beautiful thing. And yay. What I found out is that my sister, who's a nurse, I've talked about her before, she's actually now, she works in the emergency rooms, and her colleagues are now scheduled to get this vaccine.
Are they really? That's
December.
Wonderful news.
Yep. There's an actual date on the calendar that their hospital is getting the vaccine. So just knowing that it's being scheduled makes me feel like, oh yeah, this is really going to happen.
Right. Right. That there is kind of an end to this. And, you know, there were some healthcare workers, I think, yesterday in the media who were the first folks who were given the vaccine. Yeah. This has kind of been a popular conversation that's been going on social media, but Time Magazine chooses their person of the year. And this year they chose the president and vice president-elect. I truly do believe that Time Magazine got it wrong, and I think a lot of people believe that. Really, the people of the year are the healthcare workers because they have done extraordinary work this year, and as they always do, but I just think we should just take a moment to really celebrate and honor all of their efforts. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for caring for our community and caring for all of us through just an unprecedented time. I'm so happy for your sister. I'm so glad. And, you know, my best friend from college is a ER nurse. And it's just, I mean, this has just been hell.
Yeah, it makes me know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, yesterday was also the day that we passed 300,000 confirmed deaths from COVID in this country. And that is a tragedy. And plus there was another 250 some thousand people who also have confirmed positives. So we're in the darkest hour as far as the actual virus contagion is going on. Speaking of contagion.
Amelia shared with us yesterday that she and her roommates watched Contagion, and that's a rabbit hole, but sometimes it's okay.
No, I got through all of my I got through watching all of my pandemic movies early in this lockdown. I did that back in like April. I watched Contagion and reread The Stand, you know, Stephen King's books about. So yeah, I'm done with that. Now I'm on to superheroes.
Well, you know, oftentimes on the Optimist Daily Update, we talk about some of the great science articles that come through and some of the great technical and engineering feats that are coming through that are changing the world. But I think today we just want to get a little bit more emotional. Yeah. And the Optimist Daily today had 10 fantastic stories that are all inspiring. But the one that really touched me is one about feelings. And the headline reads, "Empathy is a vital skill. Here's how to teach it to your child." Now, I'll let everyone read the article. The extract is basically that as parents, we have a duty to teach our children how to empathize. And empathy is one of the great emotional experiences and skills that you can have in your quiver as you become an adult and interact with society. Empathy is fundamentally what we believe optimism is about, is that you have empathy for those challenges that the world is undergoing, and then you are solutions focused with that empathy. And the difference between empathy and sympathy is that you get in the trenches and then you try to help people move through it. Sympathy is sort of a offhanded look from afar. Empathy is really being in there and understanding the emotional challenges.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of being able to put yourself in that other person's shoes, not just look at them as if they're separate, but understand that we all have the opportunity to go through that same experience. And it's kind of the core foundational part of emotional intelligence, which is a super important skill to have.
Right.
And it's part of being a successful human being.
Well, so some of the tactics as far as teaching and demonstrating and sharing empathy, one is pounce on teaching opportunities. So if you have a child who sees someone crying or sees someone sad, ask your child what they think is going on. Prompt them to then sort of reflect on what they're feeling and the feelings of another person. If they do that, then they'll kind of start making it a habit. Next up, demonstrate kindness yourself. 100% kids follow what we do. So if you repeat kindness, if you show kindness, if you repeat that you heard and ensure the understanding and feelings of someone else, your child will do that too. So basically show your child how to step into someone else's shoes and be kind because they will follow it. Next step is point out rude or disrespectful behavior. We can go through that, and I won't go through all the rest of them. It's a beautiful article, and it's just such an important thing for us as we move into this next chapter for our world.
Yeah, and I would say that actually probably the most important thing that parents can do to help our children develop their own empathy is embody empathy yourselves, right? Embody empathy ourselves. And that modeling is super, super important. Become compassionate to yourself and to your children, and they will give you that back. I really think that's super important.
It's challenging right now. I think a lot of people, I was messaging with my quarantine pod and I said, I know the whole world is going through this right now and my heart is for the whole world. But at the end of the day, I'm just really sad for my quarantine pod because another one of my girlfriends, her father is very, very gravely ill and she is unable to visit him. And our good friend is stuck at home and we're all just in this heartbreaking experience. And I think in that moment, when you truly feel sad, it's how you practice empathy yourself, how you think about how it might feel to be in someone else's shoes. If you're not in the habit of looking at, empathetic behavior on your own, you develop that skill set and then you can translate it to your children.
And I like that you chose this, Summers. And I think it's super important to think about our emotional health as well as physical health, especially in a time like right now. I read an article the other day about the fourth wave of the epidemic or the fifth wave. I don't know which it was, but it hasn't even really come out yet. And that's the mental health consequences of this season of lockdown and separation and disruption in every part of our lives. And especially now that it's the holidays, it's really painful. So to transition over to the story that I wanted to highlight today, talks about how to choose a therapist. The headline reads, ask these 3 questions to help you choose a therapist. And I think this time right now, there are unparalleled levels of stress out there, just the anxiety of being afraid about the economic consequences of this period of time, the physical consequences, the separations from our family, and the grief over the loss of the lives that we were used to and not knowing how things are going to turn out. Mental health is really getting challenged. And for people who already were dealing with depression, anxiety, or, even more, challenging forms of mental illness, for example, schizophrenia or other mood disorders that are just even more overwhelming, this is a really hard time. It's not just about self-care, which is super important. Sometimes seeking a therapist is really important to get that professional help. And it can be hard, though, especially now you can't meet somebody in person. There's a lot of telehealth, which is happening for mental health. And I think that's a great opportunity for places around the country, especially where there aren't a lot of resources in terms of actual practitioners. So if we can master having a therapist that works online through these conference meetings or just
and that's actually what I do. I meet with a therapist regularly. I have my therapist who I meet almost every week. Sometimes we have to skip a week, but we meet via Zoom and I block out that lunch hour and, it works for his schedule and it works for mine and it's become very effective.
Yeah.
At first it was awkward. At first it was sort of, weird to be online, but I think we've kind of abandoned that notion that human connection requires us to be in the same room.
Right.
So it's
But
definitely possible.
Definitely. But the thing about a therapist is that you have to be a little bit choosy.
Discerning, yeah.
Discerning. Just because the first person you call is the first person who answers, it's because it's a relationship. It's a relationship that you build to help heal your own relationship wounds, right? That's what a good therapist is. This article gives a couple of tips on questions that you can ask to feel out that other person to see if they are the right fit for you. So first one is asking, what is your history in treating patients with things like what I'm struggling with, whatever that is? How much does it cost? That's another question that you got to ask. Get that out right away. Then you don't feel, just knowing where it is and make sure that it makes sense.
I want to add to that. So I had a therapist. I went through a divorce, and during that time, I was a bit financially strapped, and I had an amazing therapist that I really, really enjoyed. But unfortunately, my insurance was no longer going to cover her. And I had to have a very hard conversation with her just simply to say that I couldn't afford her anymore. And it felt so painful to have to do that. But at the same time, she was able to make some changes and some adjustments. And we ended up coming up with a number that I could handle and that would also justify her time. So I was able to continue working with her for a time period after that transition. So it seems like a really tough conversation to ask your therapist and to talk about money, but it is so important. And once that's off the table and everyone's in an agreement, you can really come to opportunities together.
Mm-hmm. And I think with the telehealth changes, there's actually more affordable options that you can find. And a lot of therapists do offer a sliding scale so that if you've got a relationship, it's more important about that than it is to just make tons of money. And then ask yourself and ask your therapist the question, like, is this a good fit? Or am I just accepting it because I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings? You kind of have to ask yourself that question. And if you feel awkward with somebody, maybe it's good to try it out because that awkwardness might go away. But if it doesn't, maybe it's not a good fit and you just want to go to the next. It's better to find the right fit so that you feel heard and seen and you find somebody who you can actually open up with and get the help you need. So I think this is really important to think about and to normalize the fact that sometimes we all need help. And talking to somebody who knows what they're doing makes a big difference. It can feel like talking to a friend, but it's different than talking to a friend because your friends aren't trained mental health professionals.
Exactly.
They don't know what they're doing. And they can inadvertently hurt you or make you feel like you're not allowed to talk when you really just need to say something which is completely unacceptable. Maybe you are hating your partner or you hate your kids. And it's a feeling. Sometimes you have to, the only way out is through, right? You have to get through it.
The only way out is through. And that's, feel your feelings, don't fix your feelings. Therapy is such a meaningful exercise, but you do have to, just as you would want to make sure your physician is somebody who advocates for you and your physician is somebody you feel comfortable being totally transparent with. You can't lie to your therapist and you can't lie to your doctor. And if you are, then that's probably not the right fit for you.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my headline for today. And so I guess both of them are really, it's about emotional intelligence, whether you're teaching it to your children or learning it for yourself. And these are both ways of building that.
Well, I know that we have a ton of work to do today, even though I am spending so much time trying to find the perfect soup bowls on Amazon. But I probably should get back to work. Other headlines you could read on the Optimist Daily today include an AI-powered display that allows firefighters to see through heavy smoke. Let's see what else. Virtual power plants are revolutionizing Australia's energy market. I almost talked about that story. It's pretty exciting. The bowhead whale populations have rebounded after near extinction. Ethically made gifts are actually easier to find with these tips. What else?
There's an artificial retina that may treat one of the main causes of vision loss in adults. There's a manifesto that's calling on urban designers to build for a sustainable future. I like that story. Cher is calling for a zoo to release a gorilla after it's been in captivity for 30 years in a mall. It's very sad. So hopefully there's a discovery of a solar system superhighway that could speed up space travel. And I love that. It delights the mind, so to speak, at least mine. And that's it today for the Optimist Daily. Thank you so much for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to continue to share positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. And if you've got the means and you are enjoying what we are doing at the Optimist Daily, please consider becoming an emissary. And for just $5 a month, you can help support reader-funded independent journalism and be a part of the solution-changing consciousness that addresses our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Help us keep the Optimist Daily free for all who need it, supported by those of us who can.
Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow.